Sorry, I'm so bad at this. Can you guys hear me?
What you get when you get out is a lot more than people on Social Security.
Hear me? Oh, everybody's gone. No.
I do too. So I told you to be careful. Okay, and then I'll go work on all the desserts. Yes, I'll bring you some ranch.
What? Okay, sorry. I fucked this all kinds of up. Alright, I'm just gonna draw until a couple more people come back because I fucked it up. Oh boy, I suck at this.
Did your mom ever answer?
Technologically, I am basically illiterate. You should see me when I'm trying to figure out how to animate. It is. I can draw the pretty pictures, but I cannot figure out how to make them move. But yeah, I can give a quick summary of the Bale once people come in. The Bale is one cohesive plot that I'm working on. It is the post-canon and I guess during canon, because this is going to I'm going to tell stories about Casey's future timeline. Not much. I just tried to figure out how to get the mic on, and then waited. I'm at a Denny's right now. Is it too loud? Is there a lot of noise around interrupting the mic? Hello. All right, that's good. All right, so the Bale. The Bale is both post-canon and around canon, trying to make it everything canon compliant to the first two seasons of the show and the Rise movie. It's going to follow how the Bale, the six in the relationship, all four turtles, April and Casey, get into their relationship, and what happens in their life moving forward as they grow into adults. It's not, while it's so far been primarily about the relationship itself, it's not going to be entirely about how they are in a relationship. I'm going to give a full story to each character about mostly just them, where their relationships romantically are ancillary to their personal growth, if I can. For Leo, it's going to be about how he finds both personal fulfillment and heroic fulfillment in the hidden city, and how he bonds with Big Mama while doing that. He is going to find out more about the Hidden City and its culture, while also being taken under Big Mama's wing and learning the ropes on how to basically run the Hidden City underground as a mob boss. And while still being the head of the Hamato family, learning to rely on Raph even though they have different styles of heroism, and realizing how they are best suited to take care of the territories that they've come to be most invested in. For Raph, he's going to become basically what he's always wanted to be. He was the one who pushed them to be heroes. He was the one who wanted New York City to like them and accept them. And he's the one who's going to be credited publicly for the stopping of the invasion. And he's basically going to become a celebrity superhero in New York and the face of yokai, mutant, and human relations, as it's kind of hard to keep the Hidden City hidden after the invasion. Humanity now knows they're not alone, whether that's from extraterrestrials or subterrestrials. So they needed a poster boy. They needed a face to show them that that yokai and mutants weren't a threat, and to spearhead that integration. And Raph is the perfect fit for this. He's going to find out what it means to be a public figure, to be constantly scrutinized, the racial and special profiling that comes with such an enormous social shift, all while figuring out and grappling with his own morals compared to his brothers. Yeah, that's going to be part of this. He's going to start appreciating what it means to lie through your teeth with a smile on your face. He's going to have to be a golden boy at all times, and he thinks that that's going to be easy. He thinks he's a natural at this, but it's going to be a little more difficult than he wants it to be. All while Leo is doing the same thing in the same sort of ways in the Hidden City. They're both going to figure out their methods of protecting their cities in different ways. Leo is going to be using his surreptitious talents, his ways of lying, of deceit, of manipulating people. He's going to use his connections he gets through sex work and his his people person ability to get connections, to get intimidations, and information. He's going to take to his role like a fish to water, and it's mostly about self-acceptance, where Raph is going to struggle immensely to fit the role that he's been thrust into. And then all the while, they're also grappling with and reassessing what the Hamato clan is and who is the head. Now that they have all unlocked their Ninpo, now that they're in a relationship, Splinter is no longer the head of the household. As neglectful as he may have been, it was still his responsibility. And now Leo and Raph are going to find out how and what they split between them in that sense. For Donnie is going to become basically Lex fucking Luthor crossed with Hannibal. I want him to take over the tech world of the human and yokai societies as they are integrating corporately. He is going to push out the Nakamura Corporation. He's going to team up with old rivals to establish himself as a functional brain. as a human alter ego. That he is not going to present to the human world as a yokai like Raph does. He is going to have an alter ego, Othello O'Neill, April O'Neill's husband, and quickly become famous in his endeavors of reshaping the technological world. I'm sorry I'm stuttering so much. I wasn't prepared for this. While Mikey is going to become a somewhat infamous anonymous street artist that makes ARGs in both the Hidden City and New York that people tend to go fucking wild for. But that's all to say that their relationships are not the only thing that is the Bail. The Bail are these 6 people. And what they do is they grow up, you know? In the story, there's going to be 3 timelines we're going to be following. The Alpha timeline, which is where the Bail gets together after the movie happens, the invasion is thwarted, everything's okay, right? Then there's the Doomed timeline, the one that Casey comes from, where the Krang do invade, and the only way to get the Hamatos safe is to send Casey back in time. We know this. I've been writing the Doomed fic, which is going to be small vignettes showcasing what happens between then and now. What gets to the point where Casey goes through that portal. And part of what I'm going for when I write that one is to make it abundantly clear to everyone that the Turtles in the Doomed timeline are the same people. Oh, I don't think Casey is even Cassandra's biological child. I have a story for the origin of my Casey. And while it's technically a spoiler, I don't mind telling you this one. So I think Casey was born on the day of the invasion. So the day the invasion started, his mother was in the hospital giving birth. And his only connection to Cassandra is that his older sister, so the family he was born to, was a Brownie Scout. During the invasion, the first thing that Cassandra does is search out for her Brownie Scouts to keep them safe. And she gets most of them. But by the time she finds one of her Brownie Scouts, who was in the hospital and at her home because her little brother was being born, the Krang had already collapsed to the hospital. The mother and the Brownie Scout older sister was already dead. Cassandra feels like she has failed her scout. These scouts were like her younger sisters. But the baby, the child who was born that day, survived. And that was Casey. She names him Casey Jones Jr. because she's an egotist. And after Donatello discovers the herbicide, after he reconstructs it based off the sample that April found right before the invasion, and they discover what the Krang's purpose on the planet is, she sneaks out of the base with her Brownie Scouts and the infant Casey Jr. because the Krang, now they know, are rounding up humans to harvest them and on regular intervals to keep their zombies fresh, as the brother Krang is the one controlling all of the zombies, and he loses his grip on them as they rot, essentially. So she sneaks out to work at, to use her scouts, as saboteurs and lookouts and informants all across the inhabitable zone that the Krang left. They're the ones mapping the labor camps all throughout the inhabitable zone with all of the humans that the Krang left alive on purpose. They're the ones that sabotage the mines so that they aren't getting the resources they need as fast as they can. And they did this all without Leo or Raphael's approval. They just snuck out in the middle of the night now that they had this information. And additionally, Leo and the other Hamatos had no idea Junior existed. And they wouldn't find out that Junior existed until Cassandra's death 15 years later. Cassandra would stay in contact through radio to the Hamato clan and the base, and Donnie would be supplying them via remote caches throughout the inhabitable zone. But she would never admit to him or anyone else how many she had on her team. They just knew that she had a team of up to 6, and that they needed, they were giving them valuable information, right? Eventually, Cassandra, would discover a specialized labor camp 15 years into the rebellion day to try and save the inhabitants. So instead, she gave Donnie a code word over the comm to convince him to give her as much of their weapon stock as she possibly could get. And she and her scouts launched a Hail Mary attack on this new labor camp that they didn't know about before. This resulted in the death of the sister Krang and the death of the Brownie Scouts. But it also resulted in the saving of all of the women in the camp. Casey, who was left behind on that raid, was tasked with guiding those women who were saved back to the base camp, the place he had never been before. And from then on, he was treated as any other soldier in the resistance and lived in the barracks with everyone else, where he would then fall in love with his senseis, and Donatello would continue to look for a solution that would save all of his family, leading to the results of the movie and what we all know now. So, yeah, I have no idea who his parents are, but it sure isn't Cass. That woman is as asexual as they come. I cannot see that woman having the urge to kiss a single human being on the lips. I want to have a full fan fiction for April, when it comes to April fully unlocking her Ninpo. Because have you guys noticed that April's Ninpo in the canon episodes are basically just Karai possessing her and not a direct individualized power like the rest of them? I think that's not because she's human. I don't think that's because she's only half Hamato or whatever. I think it's because she doesn't consider herself a Hamato yet. I think subconsciously she's still insecure about her place in the family, and she has been this entire time. And because of that, even though everyone else considers her to be a full-blooded Hamato, she can't fully embrace that, leading her to only have half-formed Ninpo. The connection, but not the abilities, right? So I want to make an entire fan fiction about her coming to terms with that and her unlocking her real and true power, which I'm going to make the ability to. No, I'm not gonna say that one. Let that be a surprise. But the Bale will also have children. They will get married. They will live their lives and come into their own and be their own people together, you know? This is just the life and love of 6 people. There's a lot of stories I want to tell inside of this one timeline, inside of this, 40-year period. Donnie, along with most other, basically everyone but Raph. Basically everyone but Raph is going to casually date outside of their Bale as well. That's just part of life, part of who they are. They're in a mostly open relationship. It's part of Leo's job. April has a huge crush on Sunita. Casey wants to live life. He wants to experience things. So most of them, save Raph, who just isn't all that interested, date outside the Bale, and that includes Donnie. But this will not go well. And I have an entire story about that, and the tragic result of it. And it's going to have far-reaching consequences for the entire family that no one could have predicted, especially not Donnie. Not just Kendra. I will say it is the Purple Dragons, but it's all of them. And in the Bale canon already, before they all get together, Donnie does briefly date just Kendra for 6 months before he finds Leo's tapes, right? But they will get back together roughly a year or 2 after the Bale is established. And Donnie will insist and regularly reiterate that it is strictly a friends with benefits sort of situation. But inevitably, the Purple Dragons are going to fall for Donnie harder than Donnie falls for them. And that never ends well. What do you guys think of Rose? Recently, I've been having more fun with sketchier line art like this instead of doing the clean, the clean line of a line art. I stick with the kind of rougher edges. I think it's giving it a little bit more volume and letting it feel a little less stiff by letting the lines have a bit more freedom. Yeah, it's just gonna be like it's just like a more refined sketch rather than a somewhat stiff line art, because I think the steady line art that I was using before only looks good if I follow through and do a full shading, which I don't usually do. It takes too much time, and I usually stop at the flat color, right? But if I just very neatly sketch line and then flat color, it looks a bit better, right? So each one has its place. I will be using them interchangeably, you know? Hello, Gazelle.
Alright, there you go. Sure. You can. I'm gonna try it. Just one burger, Tommy?
What's up, Scrap?
Burger?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, once they have kids, especially once Regal grows a little older, Regal specifically and Leonardo are going to be in a perpetual father-son prank war that will literally never end. This includes puns and and actual pranks that tend to leave one of them either doused in feathers or hanging upside down. And it is a menace on the entire layer. No, Leo will never stop making puns, and he will never stop being a absolute fucking nuisance to everyone around him, and his son will take after him. I actually have a few shorts for Instagram and YouTube that I want to make specifically with that premise. I have a couple of the audios saved. I really want Regal and Leo to have a pseudo rivalry, right? Just like an exaggerated "you'll never beat me, son" kind of thing. Absolute petty bullshit. Once the kids are old enough to participate in the layer games for real, it still has all of the original Turtles playing. And thus no longer is it Raph and Leo always in first and second place, it's Leo and Regal. And it's just as annoying and menacing to the rest of the family as it was before. If not worse, because now there are two Leos. Exactly. Regal exclusively refers to Leo as old man because he knows it pisses him off. GG. They all do. They're all much nicer to Splinter. Because at this point, Splinter's like an old man.
But adults do the same thing, because I know Dory was talking about calling Gina. And Gina was like, well, you have to talk to me later, because I'm playing this game with so-and-so.
I would want a prequel centered around Rose specifically, because I don't think there's a way to immediately or like jump straight into addressing how Steven feels about Rose without first adding more elaboration and context to Rose's backstory for the audience themselves, because they did such a good job at slandering her before this, you know? So we need to see Rose. We need to know Rose as an audience before we can force Steven to know Rose, you know? There's nothing we can do for Rose post-mortem unless we get to see her alive and feeling and thinking. The biggest part of the problem of her character assassination is that she never gets to be there to defend herself, right? We need to see her during the war. We need to see her reasons why she continued to hide her identity, because there are real reasons, but we need to hear it from her mouth. We need to see her confrontation with Bismuth without the narrative of Bismuth telling the story or the decades of time in between, right? Because, yeah, we need during the war and immediately post-war time with Rose. We need to see how she feels about Pearl and how she treats Pearl directly. We need to see how she felt about Bismuth, how she felt in the war as Rose around all of these people who wanted to kill a diamond, right? Prequel series, for sure. Splinter is going to be with both Draxum and Big Mama. Draxum is going to have two houses, continuing to live in the apartment above Carol, and moving back into the Grand Nexus Hotel, where Splinter will live full-time. And Big Mama is basically going to passively adopt Leo and Leo alone. I mean, she's basically going to pick him off the street like a rat and be like, haha, you're mine now. And I'm not talking about Splinter, I'm talking about Leo. Because Leo is going to start sleeping around the Hidden City on his own without already knowing the Hidden City's culture on sex work beforehand. So he's just sleeping around because he wants to. And because he is both hypersexual and needs it to function, and coming to terms with that and experimenting with what that really means, and trying to, until what else do you have recorded, he's trying to avoid the emotional consequences of being in love with his family, right? So he's going to be sleeping around the Hidden City, not realizing that that is like part of the culture. That's like a profession, and he's doing and he's jumping into a world there, right? In the Hidden City, sex work is about as ubiquitous and as passively respected as being like a librarian or a EMS worker or a fucking firefighter. Like, it's a part of the community that is important and also pretty common. But Leo is going to go into that initially with a human understanding of that. He doesn't like being called a prostitute by yokai before he learns this. Like, he hears it as an insult, you know? He isn't quite accepting of his own sexuality yet, so he's not sure how to engage with this. In the Hidden City, that would be a lot different. There are protections in place. There are STIs are just not going to be a thing, you know? Something magic. This is a fantasy world for a reason. We get to explore different cultural things without the immediate human consequences that would be in real life, you know? So Big Mama is going to take note of this and just kind of like yank him out of an alley with her fucking butler men and be like, hey, let me give you a rundown. And that's how he's going to be reintroduced to Bruce. Because Bruce and the Masters of Barbarianism canonically work under Big Mama. And I think the mob families in the Hidden City, the Masters of Barbarianism, the Makers of Brutality, Big Mama, the Mud Dogs, these are pre-established groups of gangsters that all work under Big Mama and are assigned to different social roles. The Hidden City is less directly managed than human society. And it falls mostly to these sort of unregulated groups, and mostly Big Mama, for laws to be enforced. And Big Mama assigns these mob families to do different tasks around the city. The Mud Dogs are supposed to be in charge of general merchantry. In the same breath that they rob people, they also make them pay Big Mama for protection. They facilitate taxes, and they actually follow through with the protection that businesses pay if they do. So they are both the enforcers and the protectors of crime in the city for shops and wares, right? And the Masters of Barbarianism, Bruce's gang, are the protectors, but not the managers, never the managers of the independent sex workers throughout the city. So if you want to be a sex worker in the city, you register with Big Mama. You get 100% of the proceeds that you make with your work, and Big Mama pays and controls the barbarians to keep tabs on all of the tabs and run the brothels themselves and all of the individual sex workers throughout the city. They are paid by Big Mama and not the sex workers, and their money is not tied to the productivity of the sex workers, leading them to protect them without any incentive to force them to work or do anything duplicitous, right? But this only works if the sex worker is registered with Big Mama, which Leo was not. But yeah, they're basically glorified mob bodyguards for prostitutes. Big Mama introduces Bruce to Leo and asks them and assigns them both a important mission, because as that's how it's supposed to work, with all of the sex workers being registered and protected under Big Mama and Bruce. There have been whispers and instances of disappearances of sex workers who are unregistered being abused, unregistered brothels propping up in seedier sides of towns near the docks. And they don't know who's running these. They don't know what they're doing, and it's definitely not under Big Mama's purview. Exactly. So she has Leo paired up with Bruce to go undercover and figure out the source of this, who is behind it. Leo basically intentionally gets captured as a naive, unregistered sex worker on purpose to find out that it is actually the Makers of Brutality who have gone rogue away from Big Mama and is trying to usurp her power by overturning her systems. They are trafficking women and yokai and other sex workers specifically for the non-legal snuff films, basically. Anything that wouldn't, any desire or negative want people would have with sex workers that wouldn't be under the purview of safe isn't allowed, and the barbarians would usually stop or kill anyone who tried to harm or force a sex worker to do something they didn't want to. So the ogres, the brutality gang has been enslaving and forcing yokai to basically work as slaves for the types of work that isn't consensual, basically. It's a sex trafficking ring. And this is how Leo comes into contact with and figures out about the laws and the rules and the culture of the Hidden City. He gets his first kill here and saves and disbands the makers of brutality, and everything will work out just all fine. And that's how he will find his place under Big Mama's wing and as her successor in training. By the time he's like 30, 35, he will have fully taken over for her and will basically be the head, the king of the Hidden City. Oh, they dead men. And in this process, Leo is going to become very prideful and very accepting of his own hypersexuality and sex addiction. He knows what he is and he's proud of it, and now he has a entire community and culture that respects and understands that as well. So even as he becomes the kingpin of the entire Hidden City, he's also still a sex worker and also one of the most sought after and well-respected ones there is. He's fucked basically half the Hidden City by the time he's 30. It's how he keeps connections. It's how he gets people on his side. You make a business deal while riding someone's dick, you're almost always going to get a yes. The Tots are going to be, so Donnie is going to be the one to suggest that they have children. I already wrote that fan fiction. It's on AO3, titled Parent Mutant Ninja Turtles. They're going to be about 30 when Donnie suggests this, and they'll have been married for about 5 years already. The kids that they will successfully have are 4 turtles, one robot teenager who has existed since the actual show. Sheldon was Donnie's first son, and we will never contest that. And then one human daughter named Amanda. Amanda will be born from Casey and April. 2 of the turtles will be born from Leonardo's clutch. Regal and Gabriel Hamato. Regal from Raphael and Gabriel from Michael. And then Donnie will have 2 successful eggs from his clutch. One from Raph and one from Mikey as well. And they will be considered to be twins because their eggs, when he lays them, will be conjoined. Have you guys ever seen turtle or lizard eggs that are the leathery, sort of oblong ones? While Leo's eggs are spherical and hard, like a normal common egg you would think of, Donnie's eggs are those leathery, somewhat oval reptilian eggs, right? And the 2 eggs that are fertilized that Donnie lays are going to be conjoined. The 2 sides of the leathery material will have fused in his body and are unable to be removed, even though they're developing just fine, you know? So they will be conjoined for the entirety of their incubation, even though they have two different fathers. And the two who will be born from the conjoined eggs are Theodosia and Camilla. Thea from Raphael and Camilla from Mikey. Yeah, exactly. It also means that their eggs are like incredibly fragile to handle, because that fusion point, that seam of connection, is very easily torn if they don't handle it correctly. So once they put the two of them in the incubator, they should not be moved, and it's something that Donnie worries about quite a bit. Leo also has complications with his clutch. Leo's clutches are more brittle eggs, like a normal chicken egg. Some turtles have the hard brittle and some have the leathery. And when Leo's clutch is laid, one of the fertilized eggs is far, far, far larger than his normal unfertilized eggs. And the other fertilized egg is significantly, significantly smaller. It has almost no yolk and no room for... and this required immediate surgery to maintain the viability of the egg. Donnie inserted a incredibly tiny incision along the tiny egg's highest point, and without puncturing the thin membrane separating the egg from the air. So that he could place it as a supplemental source of energy for it to draw from as it grows and develops. This egg is also incredibly fragile, and also something that the turtles and April and Casey worry about every day that they incubate. Amanda was a normal human pregnancy and went off without a hitch. It was all fine. Everything went well. Amanda, when they are all teenagers and grow up, is going to take over the role of being the leader of their team, with Regal as her second in command. And when the babies hatch, all of the babies hatch fairly uneventfully, healthily, and well, except for the tiny, tiny egg that needed to have the emergency surgery. It takes almost 2 additional months for it to hatch after its brethren, and to the point where the turtles were worried that it never would. There's an additional reason that egg might not have developed correctly, and they were worried might not hatch. On top of its complicated laying and situation of its size, there was a moment of intense stress for the egg. That is a spoiler territory, and I will not elaborate further, that they were sure, once it didn't hatch, might have killed it, that they would never get to meet this child. But Gabriel will hatch, and he does. But the thing is, Gabriel is hatched with no reproductive or sexual dimorphic organs. It is a completely gender-neutral child. It has no ovaries, no testes, no nothing. Gabriel will also be born with a level of autism that is significantly less functional and fun than a lot of other autistic representation that we see in general media. And this is going to be something that they have to work around and grapple with, and that I'm going to get to write properly, and how you handle a nonverbal autistic child. He's going to have meltdowns. He's going to be very difficult to handle with his sensitivity. He's never going to be able to speak, and that's okay, because Gabriel is amazing and is a gorgeous, lovely little boy. I love him so much. But that's all I can say about the tots without going into spoiler territory. Yes and no. No, I know what you're talking about or what you're trying to say, and you're right. He's going to have a little trouble there in a lot of different ways. He will have developmental issues that will have him stunted or a little slower, but not in every way and not ubiquitously. He will be incredibly intelligent emotionally and artistically, but he is going to be a little slow in other ways. And he will not be able to speak. He will be nonverbal his entire life, and that's okay. Yeah, I want more low-functioning autism representation in media and fiction. Not every autistic person is going to be Donatello, you know? And that's completely fine. Rose quartz. Right now, what I'm writing primarily is the Doomed timeline. And I took a brief detour to do a one-shot little not safe for work one about Raphael, Leonardo, and Donnie. So the chapter that I'm writing right now on the Discord, which is where you get my live writing, will be coming out, within the month. All of my live writing for my stories are going to either be on Discord or Twitter. But the finished stuff that's all going to be edited is all on AO3. And everything is 18 plus. Oh, I don't have a palette for Rose anymore. No. Wait, no, not save. Copy. Copy. You won't get any more baby episodes for a little bit, because I want to finish the Doom timeline before I get back to the Alpha timeline for big stuff. But it will happen soon. I think the next thing about the tots specifically is going to be the finishing of Leo's fuckboy era on AO3, which isn't going to be directly Bale related, but it's going to end with Leo being gravid. And then after that, it will probably be the aforementioned hinted stressful situation that the eggs go under mid-incubation. Who knows, sweet tea? Who knows? I knows. Friendly reminder, got my own kind of persuasion. Looks like this place could use a bit of misbehavior. Happily ever after with a little flavor. With even worse intentions, we're gonna steal the show and leave them all defenseless. A fairy tale life can be oh so overrated. So raise your voices and let's get it activated. I want to work on my next song animatic soon. I have a whole playlist for Bale Potential songs, but I need to pick one and focus on it, because my biggest problem is that I never pay attention to something for more than 20 seconds. Oh my god. So I have the next song animatic is almost certainly going to be for the Doomed Bale, because I'm really, really focusing on the Doomed timeline right now in my head. And I'm thinking the final battle song that I have in mind will be a good one. But I also want to start making wrap-up song animatics for any large fic that comes from the Bale. You know, the way I did with Take Me to Church for What Else Do You Have Recorded? I want to have one of those for all of the major fics in the story, right? Because one, it's incredibly important for character development with Casey, and two, it has more impact on the Alpha story than you think it does, Sweet Tea. It's not just how Casey got here. There will be more, and they will intersect. Because the Bale is the Bale is the Bale, and they cause chaos no matter what timeline they're in. Specifically, I want to explore why it got to this point. Like the Cass AU? Yeah, kinda. I want to explore how they got to the point where that was the end result. Why is it that they all died right before sending Casey back in time? Why is it that Leo knew that Mikey could do this, and yet didn't use it until the very, very last moment? How did Donnie die and why? How did Raph die and why? And would they really have given up that easily? Those are the questions I aim to answer with the Doomed Bale. Also, why did Casey fall in love with them? How did he fall in love with them, and how did they feel about it at the time? Because what we have is a 20-year-old coming back into time and being immediately and desperately in love with the people he will marry. The people his age who he grew up with as adults. He didn't meet them until he was 15. He had 5 years with them when they were twice his age. And yet he fell in love with them for real. He wasn't just crushing, and it carried over so strongly that he has Nimpo, that he is a Hamato. So how did that look from the other side? Why did it work? And how did they feel about it? And also, was Casey a Hamato before going back in time? And if he was a Hamato before he went back in time, well, there are implications for that, now isn't there? I said that they rejected him to his face, but I didn't tell you how they felt. And if they felt differently than what they told him, why? And who did he confess to? Did he confess to all of them? Or did he confess to one or two of them? And how would they have grappled with that? Because there is a moral dilemma here, and they would never have said yes, no matter how they felt. But why did it go down the way it did? And did it have a reason? I have a song already picked out for animatic for Doomed Donnie. I can't tell you what it is because it would be pretty spoiler. Actually, I have two. And I either have to choose one or be redundant when I make both. And I think I'm going for redundant. Two different songs showcasing the same event, but from two kind of different perspectives of people looking at Donnie and Donnie looking at the situation. I think is how it's gonna go. And of course, I did say, what is it, Sweet Tea? I need a song for future April. Still. She's going to be angry by the end of the timeline. She's going to be bitter and angry and solely focused on getting revenge. And I can't go much further into it than that, but I'm still looking for that. I'm also intending to have I've never heard that one. Mayhaps. I'm also planning to have a animatic for every character, and not in a plot sense, because a lot of my animatics try to portray an event. They try to be just basically condensed fics in their own way, condensed short stories. But on top of those, sad angry and revenge angry. But on top of those plot animatics that I want to do, I also want to make animatics for the concept of the character, the entire character, not just Doomed April or Alpha Timeline April, or Bad End Timeline April. All of them, who she is, who Raph is, who Casey is, right? As a conglomerate. And I haven't told you guys about the third timeline, because I've told you about the Alpha timeline, and I've told you about the Doomed timeline, but I also told you there were 3. And I can't really explain much of any of the third timeline without spoilers, as its entire existence in itself is predicated on the ending of Doomed. When Doomed ends... No, not better. When Doomed ends, it will end with a choice. A choice for a character. And depending on what this character does, it will split the timeline in 2. One timeline will end with Casey going through the portal and starting the Alpha timeline. And the other will result in the third, much smaller and shorter timeline than the rest of them. And it's called the Bad End timeline. And I am going to have so much fucking fun with the Bad End timeline when I get to it, and you are all going to hate me. And I will watch you suffer with a grin on my face. And my goal with all 3 timelines is to make them all understandable. I want all 3 options, how these characters act in all 3 timelines to be consistent. I want you to look at the Bad End Donatello and the Doomed Donatello and the Alpha Donatello and be like, that is the same person in different circumstances. These are not different people. These are not from alternate universes. This is not a crueler Donatello or a kinder Donatello. This is not a crueler Leo or a happier Leo. This is Leo. This is Donnie in these circumstances, right? It's pretty important that I keep them consistent enough that when I break your fucking hearts, you know I didn't change a damn thing about these people. I'm also taking a page from Homestuck's book with universal constants. Because one of the things about Homestuck that I always thought was really good writing and really captured me was the rules of the universe resulting in the same thing happening in different ways over and over again. Some things are inevitable, but not important things, not big things, not like canon events, not that. Things like things being said, two people meeting, even if they end up in different circumstances. Things like a certain image in a certain type of way, you know? There are things that will always happen to the turtles. Like how Raph will always get a crack in his plastron, no matter what no matter what the cause, no matter how severe, a crack will always form in his plastron, right? Like how April is always a reporter, or how Splinter is always a rat. The sound? Did something go wrong? Oh no, what happened? It should still be. Huh. That might be on your end, Scrap. Either way, there might not be anything I can do about it. I am in a restaurant. I'm at a Denny's. Currently, my house is under construction because the entire thing flooded like 3 months ago from our washing machine. So if I wanna stream it all, I gotta stream out over at somewhere else. That's why I've been streaming silently most of the time. I might have to be done talking then. It's not something I'm very good at anyway. Hmm. Yeah, I'm gonna turn the mic off till the end if that's all right. Kind of makes me nervous anyway. Yeah. It's back? I thought I turned it off. Oh dear. Well, I don't really have anything to talk about anymore. Anybody have any additional questions then? I guess I could keep trying. What's up, Viking? All right, while I wait for Viking. Oh, wait. No, I don't think White Diamond was aware of Rose's deception. I think at most, she thought that Pink was helping the rebellion and was betrayed by the rebellion. And I also don't think she cared all that much if Pink had died. I think she saw Pink as kind of a pet that she grew to appreciate in its absence, but not one that she cared about too much in the interim. And as a result, she got revenge, but I don't think she cared. And I don't think she was paying attention. And then I think as the millennia went on, she grew to miss having Pink around. But I don't think any of the Diamonds know what love or affection is. And I don't think that any of them cared about Rose or Pink in the ways that matter. So I think she fooled the Diamonds, and I think her plan would have worked emotionally, where, you know, she dies and the planet becomes a greater loss than it is worth it. So what she expected when that happens, when she successfully tricks them into thinking that Pink is dead, what she expected was that they would just leave because it wasn't worth it anymore. And I don't think they got revenge instead because they cared about Rose and they were mourning. I think they were just bitter that they lost, like a child throwing something before stomping out of a room. So I did think she fooled them. As for Bree, I think my favorite event in the timelines for the TMNT is so for the Doomed timeline, it's either Raph's death with Donnie, or it's going to be Casey's first confession. But I can't elaborate on the second one because it'll be spoilers. But for the Alpha timeline, my favorite event is going to be like that. Yeah. Is definitely going to be Snow Day, which is an event in the future that I haven't written yet, so I also can't elaborate on. But of the current events that I've written in the Alpha timeline, it's going to have to be the same. Because even though it's just porn, it's just a one-shot of them being in a relationship and doing what adults do in a relationship. I think it also showcases pretty well Leo and Donnie's very particular brain rot and how that matches each other. And I always like showcasing that, right? And as for the Bad End timeline, my favorite part of the Bad End timeline is going to be the exact last moment. The very last thing that's going to happen in the Bad End is going to be my favorite thing that happens in the Bad End. And my favorite character is either Leo or Donnie because I'm a basic bitch and also I put the most effort into their characterization. Beyond them, it's Casey, and beyond Casey, it's Mikey. Your turn, Scrap. What's your question? Well, it definitely will happen in canon. Whether I write it or not, that is absolutely something that will and would have happened. But I also should do that, yes. Probably in a short or something of the like. Anything that I think would be canon that I want to portray in the story, I will divide into different medias depending on the length of the content or like the potential of it. So if it's like a simple cute thing that I think would happen, like the baby's first steps, or a individual joke I think Leo would tell, or a single interaction, those will get like an either just a fan art or a short at most. Any story that I can tell up to at least 1,000 words or like a full chapter of something, that'll get a one shot. And then anything that is actually plot relevant, changing, or character developing, I try to put in either an animatic or into a full fic that lasts at least 3 chapters. I will also try not to put anything in a animatic that isn't elaborated on or established in something else, because animatics and shorts should be artistically supplementary. While I put a lot of effort into the animatics, because they're someone else's words, whether it's a song or a skit, I'm just drawing and then dialogue or lyrics are supplementing it. I don't want it to be establishing plot, only reinforcing it. Unless it's an individual gag, like a single joke. Which is why I want to use the animatics as recaps at the end or to punctuate big moments in a fic. I also want to start integrating comics more heavily into the main plot. Like, Donnie's going to get a full comic like Leo did of him laying his clutch. I want to make the stress event with the eggs a full comic, as well as an animatic. I don't know how I'd integrate both of them, but I'm going to figure it out. I've got a lot of things in my head about everything. I ended up making this secondary sketch a little too rough. I should have done a third wave, so I'm doing it post hoc, which I have not done that before. I haven't done this kind of refining the line art with the color already on. That's weird. I think it depends on who would do it. He will knee-jerk react flip anyone who it is, and then once he figures out who it is, his reaction will change depending. With Leo, it would end up in a tussle. Same with Casey, and either of those has like a 20% chance of turning sexual. If it's Raph, he'll screech, but it won't turn into a tussle. With April, he will let it go almost immediately. Mikey, the same. He'll let it go almost immediately, but he'll grumble about it. And if it's anyone else, they will die. if it's one of his kids, it ends up in a fake tussle. Unless it's Gabriel, in which case he just, like, gets them off his back and then hugs them to his chest. You can't be too aggressive with Gabriel. With Camilla, he will throw the child. Throw the child. Into something soft, but he will throw the child. The little goblin deserves it. Amanda would get praised and then yeeted the same way because he's teaching her how to be his little fucking psycho successor. Huh? Lucas, what are you talking about? Also, hello, I think you're new. If it's Thea, it would end in a play tussle and mostly getting tickled. And if it's Regal, it would end in a play tussle. To finish off that. You do you, Lucas. We support you, whatever you're talking about. Do you guys mind terribly if I disappear for about 10 seconds to go get my soda refilled? Thank you. I return. I ordered French toast as well. Reactions from each turtle about tail tugging. Well, they're pretty sensitive. So in normal turtle biology, and in a lot of speculative mutant turtle biology from other fan artists, that's where the dick is stored, but not in mine. The dick behind it raises up behind the plastron when not dropped, but their tail is still connected directly to the cloaca. So it is a single muscle where at the very base there is sensitivity there. So the shorter the tail of the turtle, the more sensitive it's going to be. Raph's tail isn't sensitive at all, except at the very base where the slit begins, right? Whereas Mikey and Leo's tails are both incredibly sensitive the entire time, the entire way to the length of the tail. And Donnie's falls in between, as he has a longer tail, but not nearly as long as Raph's. If you pull Donnie's tail, you'll get the same reaction as if you mess with his shell. So, just what I had already said. Mikey will change depending on who is tugging his tail. If April tugs his tail, well, then April's going to get eaten out now, isn't she? That's the only... I mean, he has no choice at this point. What did she expect? If Leo tugs Mikey's tail, well, similarly sexual result with probably a bit rougher handling. Same with Donnie, but probably more condescending. And if Raph does it, probably equal opportunity to end in sexual results, but also will result in just brotherly wrestling half the time. If anyone tugs Leo's tail, it's going to end sexual. Unless it's his kids, obviously. Gross. Look, I might have the sibling incest thing going, but that will never, ever happen. It is illegal in the AU, okay? Casey usually gets either sexual or romantic responses to that. So he is less often going to get his antics resulted in, like, brotherly wrestling or manhandling, though it still does very much happen, mostly as a result of him and April being fundamentally less hardy and thus harder to manhandle. So he'll probably just get, like, tossed around a bit. But it's the same as touching Donnie's shell. You're going to get a spook and then some roughhousing, basically. For basically anybody. Yeah, I don't think anyone could wrap their individual hand around Raph's tail unless you're, like, really near the end, at which point he'd barely feel it. Have a good night, Bree. I'm probably not going to stream for too much longer. I'm going to probably just finish up redoing this line art a bit and then head out for the night, if that's all right with everybody. The mask tails are often used like that. Mostly by April and Raph. I'm doing my best. I really want to get better at talking. Both specifically to you, Wooly, and also just in general. I think I've been improving over the last year or so, but, you know, I still get this, like, it's like a physical feeling in my cheeks how socially anxious I get after a few minutes. It's better when it's in a group situation where I get to just, like, I don't know. The distance helps a bit, I guess, but it's not perfect. Yeah, the turtles' masks are substitutes for both ears and hair, more or less. You know, how Donnie wears his wedding rings on his mask tails like earrings. Or how Raph and Leo have the long tails that they can, like, flip like they're doing hair. Nah, I treat Mikey's like ears too, but like cat ears. Like how they I kind of make them jump up or sink down depending on his emotions and stuff like that, kind of like you do with cat ears. And you still snag them at the back of the knot of the mask tail and pull them away if they're doing something stupid. Oh, don't worry, I'm an idiot, Scrap. Oh, speaking of Mikey's hair, there is a reason that I make his hair the way I do and the fact that he has it. So I've been thinking about the turtles' biology and their origins, right? And we know that they are half the specific turtle species that they each are and half Japanese human, right? But I know there's also more than that because Draxum specifically designed them to be super soldiers. He put extra care into different otherwise. Same with Mikey and his mystic abilities. Yeah, Rose. Same with Raph and his physical strength and stature, right? Well, I think that he also put DNA of his own into the turtles, both as sort of a signature because he's the same kind of way as Donatello, where he's like a little bit egotistical and putting his brand on things and making things his. These turtles are meant to be his projects and his children, right? So I think that they are ever so slightly, like Raph guessed in the canon, part sheep men, right? They're a little bit sheep. But I think what that also means is that they are also a little bit African American, because I have a theory about how yokai exist. And I think, based on Draxum's research and based on the yokai being created by the Krang, is that all yokai are mutants. They're just older mutants that became their own species. They're Japanese American by Splinter and African American Goat by Draxum. And then individual turtles, right? So when the Krang, when the one remaining Krang who didn't get put into the prison dimension died, his blood became Empyrean, right? That's canon. And that Empyrean is what makes Draxum's mutagen work, and it's the source of yokai power. I'm pretty sure that it just is the mutagen. So when that Krang died and when it spread its blood, it created yokai kind by mutating humans across the world. And then those mutated humans bred and created a society and became their own separated species over the millennia. But they started as different humans who were then mutated into yokai, which is to say that they all have a human DNA base that are different ethnicities based on which yokai they are, right? So all Kappas are going to be Japanese, and all goat men are going to be African American, or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? Hueso is obviously Hispanic, right? Because they all originated from different parts of the planet, mutated by that singular Krang. Krang turned humans into yokai. Humans already existed, and yokai didn't. So the Krang's blood mutated the original humans on the planet into yokai. And then Draxum, thousands of years later, made a mutagen based on the same thing to do it again. His goal was to turn humans into yokai, not turning them into a different thing. So mutants are just newer yokai. Thank you. Which is also part of why I think Draxum originally chose turtles to mutate with Lujitsu's DNA. He chose Lujitsu as the human base first, and then he chose an animal that he knew would turn into a yokai that was Japanese in origin, a Kappa. He turned the turtles into Kappa with Lujitsu's DNA and a turtle base, mixing in a little bit of his own cheap yokai genetics, specifically to be the biological father, to give them loyalty, or to probably stabilize the mutation so that you have base animal, human, and a yokai in the middle all coming together to make a functional super soldier, you know? No, we know that human society existed when the Krang attacked. We see rural Japan in the flashback of the Krang landing on Earth. So, Sona. I was really into One Piece for about 3 years after I was super into Steven Universe, and while I was watching all the way through One Piece, I saw a clip on Twitter of the fight of Battle Nexus New York, just that fight, showcasing the animation, and my brain said, I can't watch that until I finish One Piece, because I knew the minute I saw that fucking animation that if I had watched it then and there, I would have lost my interest in One Piece immediately, right? And I was right. The minute I gave in and watched Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, I was so hooked that every other hyperfixation in my brain just went and disappeared, right? Goodbye. And that was like 2 years ago at this point, right? From there, I was just doing normal fan art stuff like I was with every other hyperfixation. But inevitably, I started making, I wanted to make one cohesive story with the fan art that I was making. I don't really like, after a while, I get bored doing fan art in a vacuum of just, like, I don't want to draw a thing of just Leo and Donnie kissing. I want to know why Leo and Donnie are kissing, and it's probably the same Leo and Donnie who are kissing from the last thing I drew. So I have to put a plot together, right? I have to know why they're doing this. Every time I draw them doing this, it's the same one, which means they have to have the same backstory. And then when I realized that the show isn't going to come back for a little while. Even though we're still fighting for it, it's going to at least be a long time until we get season 3. So I needed plot, and I needed more of the show. So the only logical conclusion is to make my plot that I make all of my fan art for a continuation of the show. So I just wanted to make something canon compliant. And that created What Else Do You Have Recorded? What Else Do You Have Recorded is the nexus point of the AU, right? And then everything else built out around that, backwards and forward. And it's just justifications upon character writing, upon justifications and world building, you know? I wanted them to have kids, so now I have to figure out what the biology of the turtles are, and I fucking love biology. You guys should have seen me in my Homestuck days. Do you know that I went through the entire biological makeup of trolls? I had like a 40-minute spiel that I would tell my husband, then boyfriend, all the time about why do trolls have boobs? Why are they sexually dimorphic if they're hermaphroditic? How does the mother grub interact with their reproductive systems? I still have it all on lock. Don't get me fucking started. I will go. Okay? I've always been like this. I really like speculative biology. And I really like having a single plot to draw my fan art for, right? So, it was inevitable that the bail would happen the minute that I fell in love with Rise, and falling in love with Rise was also inevitable. I actively tried to hold it off as best I could so I could at least get through Wano on One Piece. Yeah, Skyrim is one of my hyperfixations. I really like the Daedric pantheon. Right? Oh, fucking Argonians are so cool. Do you know how many fucking mods I have on Skyrim? Several of them just reamping and making the Argonians and the orcs look better. I have a mod that makes the orcs like twice the size of their normal models and gives a lot more coloring and feathering to the Argonians because they need more variety. Ooh, do you have Legacy of the Dragonborn? Because that's the only one that's required, right? It's basically canonical material that you need. Every time I start up Skyrim again, I tell myself, this is the time I will do 100%. I will fill up the Dragonborn Museum. I will do all of the plots, and I will do literally everything. And then I'll be done. I'll never have to play it again because I'll finish it. And it's never true. Ooh, nice. Whenever I play as an Argonian, it's just as an excuse to make a build that is one of the turtles. Except for Raph, I make Raph an orc. But the new armor that came out with the update that I regret to inform you that I got, I'm ashamed of myself, I know. Don't talk to me, okay? It's my greatest shame. One of the new armors they have is the Dwarven Scaled Armor. And that Dwarven Scaled Armor is perfect for Donatello. I need to play the other Oblivion games. Or Elder Scrolls games. That's what I meant. I do not touch the horses. Those are so fucking glitchy. And also, since I'm on PC, I'm using the console commands like a lot. Part of the experience of Skyrim is Skyrim being broken. Okay, it's part of the appeal. Oh shit, for real? I haven't actually heard that. Is that still ongoing or has it already happened? Because I would absolutely play Morrowind in the Skyrim engine. If Howard won't give us a new Elder Scrolls game, we'll do it ourselves. Neat. No, actually, I haven't drawn an albino turtle at any point. I was kind of considering making one of the Tots albino, but I didn't want to make any of them too special, you know, like DeviantArt OC. The shells. On a back turn, definitely the shells. I was having a lot of trouble with their heads when I first started drawing. But I've really come to understand how to shape them, you know? I still have trouble with the top of Leo's head sometimes. But the hands have come pretty naturally, the feet have come pretty naturally. How muscular they are canonically has really helped me figure out how to draw men. When Steven Universe was my main, I could really only draw women. I could not draw a man to save my life. But now I've kind of flipped now, where I can still draw women, but I'm not nearly as good as I used to be at it. Because I've been drawing male turtles this entire time. Oh, are you talking about Suzo C? Maybe. I've drawn a very pale turtle for commission a couple times. I really like Suzo C. I just don't have any personal characters that are albino. Yeah, that's Tsunemaru's OC. She's like a really light pink. Yeah, she's lovely. If you're part of the Discord, you can always you can show me your OC in the OC tabs, or in the art tabs. I'd love to see them. Ah, huzzah! We are back. Here we go. Okay, let me get these. That sounds really cool, actually. Hell yeah, OC show and tell. there with Skate 3, but my computer won't run it yet. So my computer's old as balls. Thank you so much, Cerner. And it can barely run anything. In fact, I had to wipe my computer this most recent time, like almost entirely, to get it to have enough room to run Skyrim. It will not play Baldur's Gate yet. So once I get a new computer, which I think is in about 6 months when I move back to Pennsylvania from Colorado, that's when I'm going to play Baldur's Gate 3. But until then, I will be looking at it longingly in my Steam library. Yeah. Not directly. The only Skyrim art I've ever done, but that's the only Skyrim art I've ever made, so I've never drawn an Argonian directly. Sunset or midday? Or dawn? For Rose here. For the time of day in the background. Oh, shit. I'm sorry. No tiebreaker. I am the dictator, and I agree with Viking. It's dawn. I like dawn colors. I am the king of this establishment. I am just picking, I am picking brushes on the thing completely at random as I try this out. I have no idea what I'm doing. Winging it is all I know how to do. With the ocean, and I think Rose really likes the ocean. scrap, I am 100% winging it. Whenever I do anything that is shading or just not flat color or sketch related, I am winging it out of my ass and I have no idea what I'm doing. Man, my French toast is getting cold. Well, one, Denny's are a 24-hour establishment, which is why I go to them most of the time, because I get inspired at like 4 a.m. and my husband's asleep and I'm like, brains buzzing. And two, probably I'm in mountain time. As for if I were in the Rise universe / lair, they'd probably call me Cherry over Red, just to remove confusion, and since that's my real name. They'd also probably be yelling at me to get the fuck out of their house and stop drawing porn of them. Hey, Sweet Tea's back! Let's go! So, if the Chisas... But no, I think I'd get along with Leo and Mikey more than I would get along with Raph and Donnie. But I probably won't be having kids for another 10 years at least. I know that's not what you actually meant, but I don't actually know what you mean. No, wait. I only want to change this. Cut, paste, clipping mask. I don't know what you're asking. Please elaborate, sweetie. Oh, fan episodes. You mean the fake, the alternate universe episodes that I was doing in the Steven Universe AU? Those were a collaboration with me and my friend Palesma. But partially due to my previously significantly worse social anxiety, I kind of dropped it. I'm not good at talking to people. This is new for me. And I love Palesma a lot. Palesma is a very good friend. And just like I like Bully a lot. And friends are hard. Friends are hard. It's like it doesn't matter how much you care if you can't speak, if that makes sense. So to continue the Rose Returns AU episodes, I need to talk to Palesma and we need to work together to make another episode, but I'm kind of avoiding them out of embarrassment and shame, because I went almost a year not talking to a single person online. Because I moved and everything was scary, and I remembered a few things about my past that kind of fucked up my brain. And by then it was already too late, and there's a world where I start making more fan episodes with Palesma again. I hope so, Viking. I don't know if I'm capable of it yet. Thank you, Viking. I'm glad you've been so patient with me. You've been around a lot longer than everybody else. I just don't know what's wrong with my brain. But more Rose Returns episodes are not impossible, but they are slightly unlikely, is what I'd say. For one, I'd have to get my Steven Universe hyperfixation back, and I don't know if I can juggle both. So right now my focus is going to be on Rise. I don't want to make Rose Returns AU stuff without Palesma. Don't worry about it, Scrap. It's okay. Because it's a thing for me and Palesma. It was how we became friends. So if I do more Steven Universe stuff, it's going to be with Palesma, and if that happens, it'll happen in the future. I'm objectively correct on both fronts, but I don't want to have to fight both battles at the same time. It's been a treat.